Diversified, TAG, and EVS will be joining us for a quick case study about what they did to help Fox create something really unique for the World Cup. And I don't want to spoil it, but it will be used for other events moving forward. Mike, we'll start with you because you're the person who brought this World Cup to life. There we go. We have slides. What was the origin of this idea? And what did you need?
Again, I mean, I got all deference to my engineering team, Kevin Callahan in particular, who thought that we have a number of big events that are coming, seminal events. Certainly the World Cup, the Women's World Cup, this Super Bowl, the Euros, et cetera, that required a fair amount of a big technical footprint. So it was his idea that we should, instead of renting equipment, sorry vendors, that we would buy this thing that we call the Fox Sports Jewel Event Fly Pack, which is also why operations people shouldn't be tasked with giving names to things. Yeah, I mean, they're kind of ripping through a lot of the kind of cool stuff here, but I'll leave it to the gang, maybe at Diversified, to talk about what we did and some of the innovative items on this fly pack.
Yeah, Duane, what are we looking at? How did you turn this vision to reality?
So the idea was Kevin came to us just to qualify, will this work financially? Does this make sense for Fox? And so we started with an engagement primarily to evaluate what's the overall cost of pulling this off versus renting. And once a decision was made to go, it was how are we going to do this and deploy in Qatar quickly? So primary decision had to be the system needs to be transportable. It's not going to go in by sea. It's not going to go in by land. It has to fly. So flight cases. And evaluating whether we were going to do flight cases or we were going to do what we ended up building. And flight cases certainly will work. There are plenty of examples of that out in the industry. But we wanted to rapidly deploy and strike the system because this system has to break down, and 6 weeks later it's doing the Super Bowl. So we came up with the concept as a group to build this out on flight pallets that were so the data center itself actually has to fold in half and strap down to this flight pallet. And the advantage to that over doing flight cases is that all of the connections remain intact as one system as we do this. Those pallets are interconnected with 12-channel MPO cables that I think when we showed up in Doha, we set the pallets, unfolded the racks, and we were passing signal within 5 hours.
It was pretty crazy, and I also need to mention one of our other brilliant engineers, a guy named Doug McGee, who I think was at least in part responsible for the folding ideas, these hinges. And it is a little heart-stopping when you see your entire thing folding down, and we did have to go to some vendors and say, actually, this stuff will be shipped. At least half of that rack goes upside down. They're like, well,
that was the best because we got that note from Kevin, and he's like, hey, we're going to ship this stuff upside down. And so I go, okay, let's talk about that internally really quick. Come back, hey, this is going to be dangerous. And then I go to Kevin and say, hey, we have a little bit of concern. He goes, yeah, but this stuff's shipping all around the world, and it usually lands on our dock upside down anyways. I said, oh, yeah, true. So we went ahead pretty...
But we did the shake tables, and we tried it out, and it turns out, yeah, your crap can go upside down.
It's a lot of crap.
And actually it performs better somehow. I don't know why.
David, do you want to talk about how EVS fits into this whole ecosystem that was developed?
Yeah, maybe I'll preface quickly because my leadership team years ago came to me and said, hey, Dave, what's going on out there on the West? And I said, that's the Wild Wild West. That's why we get that name, and I think it's a lot due to these guys, and they push us, right? So for us, it's not necessarily about what we did for Fox on that, but it's about what Fox did for us because they give us this platform to really showcase something that is, to the world, is kind of a first of its kind at that scale and size. And so putting a router that's somewhat new for us in something like this system is really spectacular. So they gave us the platform to do that and test something that's never been done before. So we appreciate that. And outside
You're
of
welcome.
that, it's just crazy. You know, you look at the workflow.
It's almost like you should be paying me then, right?
I think we did in the end, to be honest. We're still paying for it.
No one needs to know. No one needs to know. Peter, what about tag? Because obviously instrumental in this process as well.
Well, obviously, this is great for us. I mean, to be able to do this for World Cup and Super Bowl is amazing. It's really kind of the tag story. It always seemed somehow to start at the top of the game and work your way down, and this is starting at the top of the game. This is a massive system for us, some 1,200 inputs and 150 or more displays. But what's really neat about this is the innovation, not just in the form factor that you guys came up with, but this is really a remote data center now. Instead of just being a remote truck that's doing backhauls, you basically built an extension of your existing data centers in Qatar. And that's really transformative. And you've also built a system that's really an IP and software-based stack as opposed to dedicated hardware. So the ability to constantly improve this system and keep adding things because you own it is really going to allow you to have innovation I think you never had before that you could do when you can only rent equipment to do games, I would think.
Duane, from Diversified's perspective, what were the challenges, and how did you deploy this in less than a year because the time frame was a little bit shrunken?
So since the physical architecture of the system had never really been done before, it was designing FAA certified flight pallets that would support the platform, and being able to build this out and reliably show up in Doha on short notice and be able to ensure that it worked. To do that, we built out the entire system in our Burbank shop and fully tested and deployed it. And I have to say that without the intimate support that we received from EVS and from TAG throughout the process in really, inventing it on the fly for the workflows that we needed to come up with, we couldn't have done it. So it was that time in Burbank and subsequently in Charlotte. So we did a test flight with the system, flew it to Charlotte, set it up. That's in the slideshow that you're seeing above. We set up a temporary facility in a tent in the parking lot of FS1 in Charlotte, and a little bit of a scare around a couple of hurricanes.
And keep in mind, all that's happening during a pandemic still. So we still had a lot of challenges in that sense.
Without a doubt, it was a tremendous team effort.
And I think the other thing is this is a multi-vendor system, and I hear a lot of other people out there who have, thought, well, I'm moving to 2110. It's a scary thing. I'll go with single vendor for interoperability, make sure everything works. And here, this is there are at least a half dozen, if not a dozen vendors interoperable here in 2110, all with only 2 months of actually time to set this thing up and get it working for World Cup, and it works. And so it really proves both the technology of 2110 and the interoperability in our industry to make this happen.
And just what we're able to do within a 2110 architecture. When you look at that system, it's only 20 racks at the IBC, and that has the power to process 3,400 1080p signals bidirectionally. And that's at both the IBC and the studio, so double that.
And you could never have built this with SDI, right? The cable, impossible.
Yeah. One of the things that was put into the architecture, this is a truly redundant red-blue system, right? And that has been put to the test out in Doha. I think as we speak, I'm actually down 100 gig service at this point. So it does work with the connectivity, the failovers and the redundancy that we tested, and is actually a testament to, that type of architecture. You don't hope to be in that situation, but we've certainly tested that out a hell of a lot more than I would have liked to.
Yeah, and add to that the redundancy that's built into the system itself with that red-blue network. You have to physically move these things, and you risk damage every time you move them. You see one of the slides that comes up is 2 airplanes, and that's because we split the 2 systems for the IBC and the studio between 2 airplanes, odd number racks and even number racks. You could lose an entire airplane and still do the show.
There's a couple of slides later, but there's a map. Can you explain how the flight I guess, path and trajectory. How will this be used for the Super Bowl in Arizona, Mike?
Yes. So the cool thing is that we're using it for, at least a bit of a different effort at the Super Bowl. Half of it is going to do what we call FATS, which is, the feed another truck something or feed another truck shit, depending on who you are. And then the other one will be supporting our post-production and shoulder programming efforts. So in some ways, it's actually being used for a completely different purpose. And, with that map, essentially, that's kind of the hit parade. It goes from Qatar back to, actually, I don't know if he's pulling it back to Charlotte. Probably goes right to Arizona. And then from Arizona, it'll probably go back to Charlotte, where its home is, and then head to Australia for the Women's World Cup. And when we budgeted this out, because yes, this is an effort in finance, and we needed to explain to our financial bettors that this was a good idea, and we had to go and make those types of projections utilizing the shows that we already had rights for. And luckily, while we were in the process, we also achieved the rights for the Euros, so that kind of got thrown in as a bit of a value add for this. But I think somebody said it that, look, we're just learning how to drive this thing right now, and I think that we will find other things to do that we didn't even plan on.
Well, in Doha, it was kind of made apparent that people were shopping this thing already. So I think you've got some people looking at you going, hey, what are you doing with this thing?
Yeah, no, we got a lot of questions from some of the vendors, hey, what's this thing doing? And, but turns out it's busy at that time.
We hope so.
Do you have any plans for Australia yet, or you haven't even thought that far?
Well, we know we're going there.
Obviously.
Yeah.
No, in terms of how this is going to be used.
Yeah, we're still working that out.
Okay.
I mean, we're still working that out.
Still working Super Bowl out, to be honest.
There we go.
That's completely fair.
Cool. In the last 3 minutes, any lessons learned? Duane, you can start. Any lessons learned from this process? If you could do it over, would you do something differently?
I spoke to it earlier. It's the integral participation from everyone involved in the project is key. And so that is a lesson learned. And having that time to fax out the system remotely and bring the system up was integral to the success of the project in the field. Lots of lessons learned on the physical infrastructure and how this thing goes together and how it folds up, and we learned a lot, and how to deploy it quickly by having that time at Burbank at Charlotte. Sure. Dave?
Yeah, I mean, for us, I think you guys said it on the last panel, but internally, it's we're building a team, right? So having the right people and the right knowledge is moving into this kind of new era of technology is super key, and we have an amazing team, and I think people went way above and beyond. So I owe some people some ice cream when they get back, for sure. But when you see what they've done and how late they stay up, and I don't know, the health of these guys is always a concern. So we're really proud of our team, and we're proud of everybody that participated. So it's cool.
Peter?
Again, I think we just learned it was a really great team to work with. EVS especially was fantastic to work with throughout all this, and of course Diversified, and really happy to be part of this project. It was just really amazing to do.
Mike, do you have anything else to say?
Yeah, measure twice, cut once.
Great. All right, give Dave, you got anything else?
I was going to say, feed Mike shit, right?
That's it.
That's
Mike, David, Peter, Duane, thank you for the time.
Thank you all.
Round of applause. Mike, we can get off the stage now.